Here we go. Woo!
Oh.
I'm not getting live. We changed the music, Trey. We changed the music just to be gone.
I was thinking I was on the wrong show for a minute.
Welcome to the GovCast. Mid-February, Valentine's Day. We made it through. Special guest today, Chris Simpson. We got to be on our P's and Q's. Woo! Mixed it up today, Dre.
I like it.
We gave you some new music. So just changing things up here in 2022. How have you been? For those you don't know,
Good.
first appearance in 2022. She made it through New Year's and the holidays.
And then Jack was begging me to come back. No, I'm just kidding.
Our ratings have slumped. We went through a ratings slump, and you're like, we analyzed. We did some market research. We're like, bring Dre back. So there you go.
You need some estrogen on the show, I think.
We doubled her. We doubled her salary to bring her back, right, Dre? You're making twice what you did before.
0 times 2 is still 0.
The big update. Come on, tell folks you're within 30 days of coming off the market, right?
24. Yep.
24. What day?
It's coming together. Huh?
What day?
March 12th.
March 12th, married in South Florida, correct?
Yep. I find myself like last night, it's 11:30. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to sleep. And I just lay there and I toss and I turn and I think about to-dos and then I add to my phone and I'm like, okay, it's coming together.
Slow. Just take that day slow. That's my best advice. Slow. That day will go by so fast. You'll be like, what just happened? We just spent 30 grand and it's gone. Whoop. Are you going on a honeymoon right away?
Not right away. We're going to wait like 6 weeks.
Where are you going?
Hawaii.
Oh, how long?
We leave April 30th and then we're there till May 11th.
Oh, that's great. I've been there once. Yeah. Where are you staying?
Well, we're going to start in Kauai and then we go to Maui.
Are you doing a volcano? You doing one of the lava walks?
Yeah, we just literally, we've been putting it off, just trying to plan everything else. So finally last week, we're like, all right, let's just do it. So we booked the flights, we booked the hotels. Now we have to do excursions, but that's on the list.
Maybe you'll see Obama kicking around the islands. He's over there doing his mansions. Maybe you bump into him.
Where is he? Where is his?
I don't know. I don't know where he's held up, but he's over there working on his mansions. Maybe you'll bump into Obama.
Maybe we'll see him.
That'd be a good wedding photo. You'd be like, that's a good segue too. Our guest today, Chris Simpson, is works for the Secret Service for the last 22 years. So we're going to bring him on here in a second. So we are presidentially security inclined today. For those of you who see on Facebook, it is also Jack Signing Week, which I shut down this week. So just refreshing. And the only thing I'm doing this week is this show. Other than
so what does that mean? When you say, I saw that on Facebook too, but I didn't want to ask publicly. What does that mean?
I don't know. It's something.
You think it's your birthday all week or something?
Yeah, my little group came up with a while ago. And, like when people are doing events, they're like, oh, a lot of people, like you'll find out. You know what you'll find out? This is a perfect example. At your wedding, I don't know how many guests you have. As it gets closer, your wedding guests say more things like, hey, I don't want to sit with Bob. Can I sit with Aunt Jane? Can we be in the back? I don't really like this food. And you're like, it's not your day. It's not your day. Just go along. Just come and go along.
So that's how you feel all week?
Right. That's how it is. It's like you shut down for a week. You're like, hey, it's just Jack Signing Week. I get to do what I want. Took off work. Just do some things, that help recharge my batteries. As I said on my Facebook post, it's been a long 2+ years for a lot of us. And I think it's important, right? I think we have a tendency in our society, type A, especially in the business sales world, are like, hey, get over, just deal with it. And I also think, and I'm like that, definitely type A. And as Dre will tell you, related that to our team a lot. But I think it's also important to recharge your batteries, right? Take some downtime and take some you time. And so that's what either your like Andre or Strepo week or Jack Signing Week. It's just a chance for you to be like, ooh, I'm going to shut it down, recharge the batteries, be ready to go. And so it's important, especially now in all the weird changes we've had the last 2 years. And so encourage you, everybody, to take your week to yourself. Make sure everyone around you knows. And so they accommodate accordingly. And you get to go to the restaurants you love and do the events.
I saw you into Waffle House.
Yes.
What's your favorite breakfast?
That is Waffle House. And, I got a massage, which is a little different. So it's not really the house. And so trying to do nothing for a whole week besides this show. So I came out of Jack Signing Week just for the show. So, yep, all queued up. And trying to get over this cold I've had now for 2 weeks, which is bothering me.
Ugh.
So it's all good. It's all good. But welcome back, Trey. Great to see you. You look great.
Thanks.
I'm excited for your wedding. And so with that, I have one other thing. So one of the things we do we have this year in 2022, I almost forgot, we actually have a sponsor for the show this year. And so I.Help is sponsoring the show for the entire year, which is amazing. And so just want to give a little plug to I.Help. If you're unfamiliar with I.Help, I encourage you to go there. I.Help literally is the URL. And so what I.Help does, it actually aggregates all of your online presence into one place. It is amazing. You know, like when you used to go to a trade show or marketing, you'd take your business card and you'd have your flyer. And a lot of that doesn't exist today. So now when we talk to people, we're like, well, look, here's my webpage or company webpage, and here's my social media, and here's my LinkedIn thing, and here's my here's how I do online conferences. And if you're going to send me a document, there's like all these things you have to send to people. Well, imagine now all that is on one page. So literally your webpage, your company webpage, whatever video sharing, web sharing app you use, you can actually do conference calls from there. It does your schedule. So if you want folks to see your schedule and automatically like schedule things for you, it groups schedules. If you've ever you ever try to like schedule a meeting with 3 or 4 people, and you're like, well, I'm not busy here and I'm not busy there. And here's what I'm doing. It's annoying. It'll automate that entire process, because when you schedule a meeting, it'll send an email to everybody and check when they're available. So amazing. It's a new app. You're like, I haven't had that before. So it's like $5 a month. Amazing. I.Help cannot promote it and encourage you enough, especially in this digital virtual environment. It's going to be a must-have. Everyone's going to have an I.Help page, because what you do is you just put your name in it. It's like I.Help/Andrea, and all of your online stuff literally is in one spot. So you don't have to now send people 10,000 emails or put it all in your email signature. It's all on I.Help. So encourage you to go get your page, get your name, I.Help, $5 a month. Great bargain. And they're sponsoring our show, and it makes Dre's dogs bark. So it must be.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I want to bring on, with that said, Chris Simpson. Super blessed today. Have Chris on the show. Chris, literally 22 plus years in the Secret Service. Really looking forward to, not only is he have an amazing story, but obviously been around some of the most powerful people in the world over his 20-year career. Amazing. And so I want to bring Chris on the show today. Hey, bro. Great to see you. Thank you. How are you doing?
Jack, I feel bad I'm busting in on Jack Signing Week. I feel like I'm taking up your precious time, but thanks so much for having me.
If we're gonna
break it made us feel terrible that we're making him do this.
If we're gonna break it up, we have a good topic to do that with. So I just want to tell our audience, as we go through the show, if you have any comments or questions, just put them in a little box below, and we'll get to them throughout the show. So Chris, thanks for being on the show. Chris, a friend of the show, and so Mike Danker, who's been a co-host, he and Chris go back a ways, and so blessed to kind of make that connection, have him on. So, Chris, can you tell folks a little bit about your background? Certainly the little teasers we put out are super intriguing, and I'm sure folks have a lot of questions. I certainly do. And so can you tell folks a little bit about your background, how you got to the unique career that you have?
Yeah, absolutely, Jackie. You know, it started off in the Marine Corps. I was a young officer, and in the late 90s, I had to decide if I was going to stay in or not. And just so happened, the Secret Service at that exact moment were looking for military officers and police officers. And so I came in with the Secret Service back in 1999. Started down here in South Florida in the Miami office, and after a while, because I'm a Spanish-speaking agent, I took over a squad called the International Squad, and we covered 19 countries in Latin America out of Miami, just going down there and handling all the protective, investigative responsibilities for our agency down there. And after a couple of years of doing that, I actually went down into Bogota, Colombia. I was one of the diplomatic attachés for the Secret Service down there for 5 years, running multiple teams throughout the country. With the Colombian National Police. What an exciting and adventurous opportunity for me and my family. It was beautiful. And the people we got to meet and work with down in Colombia were absolutely awesome. Lots of stories coming from that assignment for another time, perhaps. We left, we came back to the States. We were excited to get back to the U.S. Despite all of the adventures you have overseas, boy, I tell you what, you really do miss the United States after a couple of years. And that was us. After 5, we were like, we're ready to go back. And so we headed back and went to the great state of Texas, the Lone Star State. It was an incredible, unique opportunity for me. I was on the Bush Protective Division with President George W. Bush for about 5 years. I was with him every day. And then I rolled over to the Dallas office and took over a group called Special Investigations. Basically, we were handling the hiring for North Texas. Did that for a couple of years, and then keep going. Took over the position of a domicile agent, which is basically an independent coordinator for Secret Service over the Panhandle of Florida. And man, what an incredible area there. But really want to give a shout out to some Kingdom men up in the Panhandle. Man, those guys are on fire up there. Did that for about 5 years. And then this last assignment, Lord brought us back to South Florida, right where we started. And for one more protection assignment. And, Lord willing, this is going to be my last one. I should be retiring, hopefully, in the next year or so. Wow. And we'll see what happens at that point. But I tell you what, man, my opportunity, I've worked with two of what I consider to be really elite agencies between the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Secret Service. And brother, I got to be honest with you, I have brought with me not just incredible experiences, but the opportunity to work with the highest caliber men and women that this country has to offer. So really a blessing. Like my whole life story is just one level of blessing after another, brother. And I'm just happy to be here to speak with you guys today about it.
Well, that is amazing. And so for our audience, there's certain things Chris won't be able to talk about. So you don't have to put things in like what happened yesterday at the White House. He will not divulge and share those things. And I think it's so true what you said. I think, for folks sometimes to really appreciate what happens here, particularly in the United States, is when you travel overseas for some extended period of time, right? I know for me as a young person, it was so eye-opening in my early 20s when I went to some, I would just say third world countries, and you come back home and you're like, ooh, now I see the desire to get back. You grew up here, we take so many things for granted, just being raised and born here in the U.S. And when you travel overseas, you see the enormous difference, right? It's like night and day sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I've had the brilliant opportunity to visit 43 different countries around the globe. Wow. A lot of people had a lot more than that, but it's a good number. And I'll be honest with you, despite the incredible things that are happening in different parts of this planet, there's a unique place in time and history for the United States of America. Like it occupies such an incredible place, like in the span of time, in the span of history, that quite honestly, I don't think will ever be replicated. I don't care about the Roman Empire. I don't care about any of those other things. The United States of America has occupied this position of the world's charitable, good, honest, and loving country that's ever existed. And despite the hiccups and bruises that we're all experiencing in any country, right? Like I can't imagine there's anybody that thinks everything's going perfectly, and it's never been that case, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, this incredible nation is a place that stands out as a beacon in the world. And when you have a chance to go other places and visit them, despite the beauty of those places, this place holds a unique position. And I'll be honest with you, Jack, I think we all consider ourselves very blessed to be here.
Yeah, I think it's such a good thing to remember, particularly the last couple of years have been super choppy, I think, for our country, both politically and culturally. And so I think it's a great point. If we go back some, so obviously you have an amazing, intriguing background, even, as you give it, it's amazing. So if we just kind of take it step by step, when you came out of the Marines and you have the opportunity to go work for the Secret Service, what were you thinking at that point? What did you expect that would be? Did it marry what you thought it would be? I know you've been there some time. Like, people hear the Secret Service, certain, images, paradigms come up in our head. And so just wondering, when you were a young Marine coming into the Secret Service, what were you thinking, and what were your thoughts as you decided to join the Secret Service? And did it meet what you thought? Was it what you thought it would be?
Right. That's a good question. Looking back, I'm not exactly sure what I thought. I thought probably about traveling the world and getting to protect the president. And you know what? My wildest dreams could never have envisioned how incredible this ride has been. And here's the reason why. It's not so much because the mission wasn't something that I didn't expect. It was the caliber of people. I had no idea the quantity and caliber of individuals that I would come in contact with over the course of the last 2 decades. And it just blows my mind that we're able to assemble, such incredible and unique men and women who have a love for this country, who are not only have a love, but they're also qualified in incredible ways to do this job, and they're willing to do it. Kind of as we're moving into new generations, sometimes it's difficult to find people who want to commit for any amount of time, especially to serving. right? It's not like you're going to become a millionaire doing this, right? So when you go into it, there has to be something else driving you. And the men and women that I have had the opportunity to work with, they have that it factor that I had no idea existed when I first applied. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's been more than I could ever imagine.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned that you were in Colombia. So I'm actually half Colombian. My dad is from there, so I've been to the country twice. But I don't know how much you can or cannot divulge. But do you have any fun stories? Right, asterisks around fun, but anything you can tell us about your time in Colombia?
Intriguing.
Well, I'll tell you, Colombia was one of those places. It kind of gets a bad rap, right? Like you only hear
it's a bad rap. Look,
you only hear the bad news coming out of there, right? Like the headlines are always kind of the bad stuff. But Colombia, the people were some of the most loving and warm people you'll ever meet. I had a great opportunity to run what we call the vetted anti-counterfeiting unit groups. They're made up of the Colombian National Police, and I created a couple different offices than we had just because we were really putting the pressure on the counterfeiters. See, back then, Colombia was the number one counterfeiting country in the world for American dollars, like by far. They were number one, which is the reason we opened our office down there. And so I took a hold of these teams, and we spread throughout the country to go looking for the bad guys. And sure enough, there was in 2005 when we came out with the new colored money. I sent a guy down to Medellin, Colombia. I didn't have an office in Medellin at the time. I sent one of my best investigators. Now he now works for us. He's such an incredible guy. I sent him down to Medellin, and I said, "Hey, I want you to just go and check." Like Medellin was known for counterfeiting the colored money, like the Venezuelan bolivars and things like that, but they weren't really making American dollars. So I said, "Hey, just go check it out. I just want to make sure that they're not going to try and get into on this new color 20 of ours." And sure enough, 2 weeks later, we took down a $2 million plant. 4 weeks after that, a $4 million plant. And then I said, okay, I'm opening an office up. And from that point on, it's just been incredibly successful. And these guys started running all over the place. They started going out into the cartel areas to try and get away from us. And so I said, you know what, we got to throw a net over this country. So we started just opening different unit offices throughout there to give these guys very little room to run. And it ended up being, I think, highly successful. We seized over $100 million in counterfeit U.S. currency during our time down there, which at this point was a record. And I give all the credit really to the Colombian National Police. Those guys are some of our greatest partners. Definitely in Latin America, they are our number one ally down there. And they proved it over and over again by putting themselves in harm's way to help us with our mission. And those guys were incredible.
Were you there when Escobar was there still or no? Or was alive still?
No, I got there after that. I didn't get there until 2003. And so at that point, the Medellin cartel had really diminished. And the Cali cartel was the one that was highly active when I was down there.
Interesting.
Chris, what when I think about the Secret Service, there's two things, two questions I want to ask. First is what happens when you apply, when someone applies, and you mentioned you were kind of lead recruiting when you were in Dallas. What's as an outsider, you think these I assume mostly men, these folks have to be so squeaky clean, right? They're like, you have to have like a perfect background. So are you able to comment? How does that part work? Like if someone's interested in the Secret Service I assume once maybe someone's there for a while, like making sure that those folks are still aligned with, with the mission, the agency's mission. And like, how does one both, I guess, get over the hurdle for getting in? And then like, do I assume they must do things to make sure that folks stay engaged, stay focused more than a traditional company, because there's so much sensitive things that happen with that organization?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As you can imagine, like the hiring process for us is rigorous, and that's intentional, right? Like we have to ensure that the men and women who are coming on board with us go through every possible filter that we can put up there. Because as you can imagine, we're going to potentially put them next to the president of the United States or former president with a loaded gun, right? So that there's 0% fail rate on this. Like we cannot mess this up. So we make the hiring process very rigorous. We have some incredible men and women who apply for our agency. The steps usually take anywhere from 6 to 8 months, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on your background. Because what we do is we dive full deep. Like we do not leave any stones unturned on your background. I mean, we will talk to neighbors and school teachers and all of your employers. Like we'll go back and speak to everybody. What we want is to get a complete picture of this individual. And one little unique note: the Secret Service is the only major federal agency to never have a traitor in the history of this country. And so we're proud of that. And we do believe it's because we take personally the hiring process. The agents are a part of it. Like we're not hiring contract investigators. Actual special agents are the ones doing these background investigations. And we take it incredibly seriously. We're going to stand next to these individuals, this man or this woman. We're going to stand next to them. So we are very intentional about making the process rigorous. But that being said, we are hiring. So if there are any good applicants out there, please go to USA Jobs and look us up.
That's cool. That is cool. And the second thing I think about is, what, if any, you're able to share when the folks you've been around at the highest level, do you see common traits within those folks? From a leadership, they are obviously in some of both the most media centric opportunities and some of the most daunting, stressful situations a person can be in, right? With everyone watching. And so,
Sure.
Having the chance to be in that world, are there traits, are there things, as folks think about, maybe they don't want to be a part of the Secret Service, but as they start their career and they think about, hey, what are the things outside of what we see on TV, common traits you see in the leaders that have been successful, that you've noted, and you take note, you're like, ooh, that's a good one I would share with my kids, my family. Those are really important things. Anything come to mind when, from your experience in your 22 plus years?
Sure. You know what, like any agency really, whether it be in the marketplace or in the public sector, you're going to have different styles of leadership, right? Like, so there's really no one style fits all, but some of the things that I have seen that really make these leaders stand out, and especially within the Secret Service, one, they care about the individuals that are working under them, right? Like you can't fake that. Like the authenticity of the care for the individuals. In fact, just the other day, I got a text from one of the men that I work under. He just saying, "Hey man, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. You're filling a role that's incredible for us. Thank you so much." Like little things like that, like you see and you notice over the course of multiple decades in the agency, that really good leaders share a care for those individuals, right? One time I was speaking with one of the head bosses in headquarters one time, and we were talking about leadership. And I said, look, I go, we have to emphasize character. Like character more than anything. If you don't have it, like you can't just buy it, right? Like you have to have character coming up. And a good leader always has good character. And what that looks like is this, for example, if somebody's willing to place their wife and their children on the chopping block to grab that next ring, right? To go up that next rung of the ladder, what does that say about their character? And what does that say about their capacity to care for and love and take care of employees? If they're not willing to do that, right? If they're not willing to prioritize those who on planet Earth they have unique responsibility for, it tells me that they don't have the character established to care at all about simple employees who they happen to be the boss over, right? So character is a huge issue. And I've been very fortunate to have worked with some incredible leaders that not only have a great sense and common sense about them, but they're bringing great character with them. And that's important. And you can see a tangible difference when a man or a woman leads with character versus someone who's just managing, right? Managing with their own kind of self-interest at heart.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about maybe some of the most memorable moments that you've had? I don't know how much information you can disclose, but.
Well, you know what, it kind of goes, it's an interesting story. It's memorable for me because it's personal and it involves my faith. So one time I was in the middle of Cambodia and we were waiting on one of our protectees to get there. And we were out in the middle of this schoolhouse, out in the middle of nowhere one time. And there was this young agent, he was kind of near me. And so we started a conversation and I said, "Hey, like, how's it going?" He was telling me like, "Well, I just got to New York and I'm brand new there and I'm really uncomfortable. I haven't made friends yet." And so we spent the next hour or so just kind of going through his life. And come to find out, his dad was a pastor over in Chicago. And so he was really missing the faith component in his life. Well, at the end of that trip, I gave him this little wooden cross that I had that I usually keep some with me to hand off to somebody who may need it. And I gave it to him as a gift. Well, over the next several years, we kept in contact with each other. And then I get an email one day. This young man has cancer, and he's flying down to Houston for cancer treatment. And he's holding in his hand, he just shows a picture of him on the airplane, and all he shows is this little cross in his hands. He's sitting on the airplane to go for his cancer treatment. Well, he ended up going to the Lord not too long after that. But, those moments like that, like despite your mission, despite like what the overriding theme of your trip is, there's going to be presented opportunities to you to love and care and encourage somebody. Don't pass that up. Don't let that pass you by. Like, I don't care what the overall mission is. If God is bringing someone in your life to encourage and strengthen them, please don't pass that up, because you know what? You never know the ripple effects of that's going to be. It may carry them through moments of difficulty that you have no idea are going to come in their life.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. What about lessons learned? I'm sure there have been many, right? But are there any mistakes that you've made that have grown you to learn different things throughout? If you can just talk about your experience with that.
Well, I think we've all made mistakes, right? And some of those are some of our best learning experiences, I think. And, one thing that I have kind of noticed and brought with me over the years is that perspective is everything, right? Like sometimes you get caught up in your mission, and you feel like maybe you didn't do something, or you failed to do something when you should have. And so you catch yourself just kind of navel gazing, right? Like you're just staring at yourself. You're looking down at kind of the mud puddle that you're standing in, and that's all you see. Like you just see that mud puddle you're standing in, when in fact there's dry ground all around you. If you would just lift your chin and avert your eyes to beyond the situation you're currently in, and look beyond this. If you increase your perspective, things really aren't as bad as they seem to be, and you can learn from those things. You see, the world that we live in right now, and you can see everywhere, whether it be TV or social media, they're really caught up in the here and now, right? Like it's almost like they have blinders on, like a horse. And when anything happens, any little wave crashes on them because they only live in the here and now, that's like a tsunami. Like it throws their whole world into an uproar because this is everything, right? And so I encourage people, and I say, look, I've been there, but here's what happens. You begin to widen your perspective, right? Instead of just focusing on this, when you begin to widen this, all of a sudden that tsunami that hits you, it's nothing. It's just a little wave that hits you. You're going to move beyond this, and you're going to have hope and carry on, right? But see, a lot of people don't understand that. Why? Because they are locked in the here and now. They think this is all I've got. If this doesn't work, if I don't get that promotion, if that person that is then interested in me, the relationship doesn't work, whatever, if I get sick, if this is all you've got, you can imagine how every little thing becomes a major crisis to them. We need people, and I needed to become that for myself and for my family and for those that work with me. We need people who say, look, raise your eyes, lift your chin. This isn't everything, okay? There's dry ground all around you. So that's a unique lesson that I had to learn. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the incredible strengths that I try to carry to people around me. And it's amazing what happens when you inject joy, when you inject hope, when you inject encouragement into people, because they really need that.
Definitely.
I think to connect some of the dots, it's really interesting. When Chris and I were talking before the show, he mentioned this paradigm of lift your head, right? Because I think today, in today's social media world, when things happen, it's like, or we see it in the press. The press is very aggressive in today's environment, right? And it's like tomorrow. Everything is so short term. And Chris has shared that perspective. And we were talking about this analogy. I think our production team has it. There was this happened in a basketball game about 2 years ago, and you may have seen it go across the internet. Actually went to UCLA in grad school, so love this image. So this was from 2019, when the center at UCLA actually threw the ball out of bounds. You can see he drops his head, and he's down about it. And then unprompted, the guard on the team runs over to him. There's a GIF online if you go watch this over and over. And he's like, picks his head up, and at that point in the game, you can see they're in overtime, and they go down, I think, in the game by 7 or 8, and they wound up winning the game. And so prior to that, Chris and I were talking about like that whole perspective, as Chris is a man of faith, trying to look up, bring your head up out of the whatever you're going through today, what struggle you may have, what thing you may be going through. And when you look at it in the larger perspective, it can seem very, very different, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And we all need those people in our organizations. Like we need those people who live with hope, right? Like for example, I had a group in Dallas, and they were kind of working in cubicles, and you can hear kind of all the gossip going on out there, right? And so I brought them in my office one day, and I say, look, guys, like you come in this door. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you how your family's doing, how your spouse is doing. If you're celebrating something, I can celebrate with you. I'm going to ask you if you're walking through a trial that I could lock arms with you in right now. Like when you come in here, this is what we're going to talk about. And I left it at that. Like I didn't get on to him about the gossip. I didn't get on to him about the negativity, the toxic negativity. I said, look, this is what it's going to be. And I'll be honest with you, for the next 6 months, all I hear is just, hey, Mr. Simpson, can I come in? It's because people need people to speak life into them, whether they know it or admit it. We human beings need someone in our organization who is a hope dealer, right? Someone who's going to speak life, someone who's going to speak encouragement, who's going to be a strengthener of people because they respond to it, whether we know why or not. We just do. I'm going to be honest with you. I couldn't keep them out of my office, but it was a blessing to be able to minister to them.
As somebody who walks out of the recovery world, I love those. A bunch of the folks have obviously a play off the dope dealer. It's hope dealer shirts and hats with a little tag time hope dealer. I love that. I love that metaphor. Chris, can you talk about, sometimes I did a post last weekend about folks mixing faith in their job, and that can be looked down upon, right? Get a lot of blowback, particularly on LinkedIn. It's very interesting. When somebody posts about faith on LinkedIn, it's so interesting to watch. It's so visceral, right? And folks either love it and they're like, or they hate it. They're like, go back to Instagram and Facebook and take that off here. And it normally gets the most comments because it's almost like that old Howard Stern thing. Like people love him or hate him, but everybody watches him, right? And so the same thing seems to be happening on LinkedIn when folks talk about faith or their walk. And and my post was, hey, if your faith is really important to you, it seems odd that it's going to be hard to take that out of your work life. And if it's not, then you just keep scrolling by. It's cool, but folks feel compelled to comment. So I'd love to get your perspective on that as someone, with your job, you walk in a life and death type environment at times, right? And I'm sure that then it has a bigger overlay than most people have on their normal jobs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For someone who's living a life of faith, I mean, that it's not just a context in your life; it's the context in your life. And so try to separate it from your workplace. It's like splitting yourself in half. Like you just can't do it, right? Like you're already wearing the jersey, you might as well wave the flag, right? So, but here's the deal: it doesn't have to look any particular way, right? Like for example, I pray over the men and women I work with every day. They don't see me praying for them, but I pray for those men and women every single day that if we're going to put ourselves between evil and harm's way, that they'll have divine protection, right? I pray over these individuals every single day. But at the same time, when I go into the workspace, when I'm going in and working my shift with these individuals, what that looks like for me is just care. It looks like a handshake or a pat on the back or a hug when they need it, or just a kind word when I see someone that may be down. Like it looks like 1,000 different ways. Like we don't have to define that any particular way, but what it must happen is you must continue to reflect God's glory onto those around you. You can't help it, right? Like you're walking out your faith, then it just automatically and organically happens, right? Like you're not going to shelve your joy. You're not going to shelve your hope. You're not going to shelve your confidence, right? You're going to bring that with you. So it's kind of like it's almost like a moot point. If you're legitimately walking out your faith, it's going to happen in the marketplace organically, right? Now you can adjust what you say, how you do it, how you demonstrate that, but you're bringing it with you, man. To deny that really would be deny a major part of who you are. So as in the public sector where I work and have worked for multiple decades now, look, it's not frowned upon at all. And in fact, people think that, oh man, you can't mix faith in the government. Like it's not frowned upon. You know what? We have a constitutional right to walk our faith out. Now, must we be intelligent and wise on how that happens? Of course, because at the end of the day, God's not glorified by me beating someone over the head with a Bible, right? Like God's not saving anybody by me berating someone's simple challenges. No, that's not the case. But the way He is glorified is me loving on, encouraging, and empowering people in my sphere of influence, right? Because he's orchestrated those individual souls to be in my sphere of influence. And those individuals are the ones I'm called to affect in a positive and eternal way. So what I tell men and women is like, look, don't be scared. Walk with boldness, walk with authority, use godly wisdom to determine what that needs to look like at a particular time, but don't subtract it or try to shelve it, because really it's doing nobody any good and it's not glorifying God at all. And I think we've seen that when you walk with foundational principles, people see the difference, right? Like when you're working to glorify God, like someone said the other day at a meeting I went to, the quality of my work is the palette by which I demonstrate my ministry, the palette by which I demonstrate the greatness of my God. Like you're going to show that where you go. So don't be scared. Like I said, you got the jersey on, you might as well just wave the flag.
So you've talked a little bit about different attributes that people, within your role maybe have, but can you maybe give some advice on what you would say to people who are just starting off in your role? So count back 20, 30 years when you started.
Sure. Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. I had a young agent just the other night. She's been on the job for 1 week. She's been out of training for 1 week. And we were sitting there on a break, and I took advantage of the opportunity. And I told her, I said, look, I go, there's two perspectives, right? You can be a problem-focused individual or a solution-focused individual. I go, here's what I espouse. Be a solution-focused leader. What's the difference? Well, a lot of people spend a lot of time saying, well, I want to avoid this. I want to avoid this. I don't want to make this mistake. Other people say, I want to do this. This works. I'm going to do this even better. I'm going to do more of this. Do you see the difference? Some are problem focused, some are solution focused. But I told her, I go, here's the deal. I go, if you're a solution focused leader, you're a solution focused agent, and you focus on doing the right things, guess what? The wrong things organically begin to disappear anyway. Right? The more right thing you do, the less wrong things just appear, right? So if you're wasting a lot of time trying to avoid something versus spending and investing time to do more of the right thing, then really you're just kind of spinning your wheels. And so that was kind of the encouragement that I gave her. I go, focus on doing well, focus on doing the right things. Don't spend so much time with anxiety, worrying about messing up or not doing this. Right. Trust me, you do these right in abundance, that will just disappear on its own.
Yeah,
I like that.
Chris, a couple lighthearted things, or one lighthearted one, maybe more intriguing. Can you share maybe the coolest thing in your career being around the president, his or her staff? Like one of the for a lay person, when folks hear about the Secret Service, it's like this, secret, super cool thing. So anything you could share, like the coolest experience you've had, like being near, around, going to an event, being around folks that kind of walk with that sense of authority in their elected life?
Well, I've had the privilege to protect 7 different presidents over the course of my career. I didn't get to protect President Ford or President Reagan, but the rest of them I did in one manner or another. And each one of those individuals brings an incredible history with them. And being able to walk with and protect them was an honor, honestly. I remember President George W. Bush. The one thing I recall about him, it's like, man, his sense of humor is epic. Like you don't really get to see that on the screen, but he has an incredible sense of humor. And because we were working with him post presidency, we were pretty tight, and we got to be with him all the time, every day, and we got to see that part of him. And I remember one time we were riding bikes. He's an avid mountain biker. We were at the ranch in Crawford, and one of the agents, as he was riding with him, at the end of the ride, there's a cattle guard with some grates and some little shockers there to keep the cattle in on the ranch in Crawford. Well, at the end of the ride, the agent runs through the shocker, it's called, and he yells out "shocker," and then President Bush turns around and he's like, "You're back there showboating." And so the agent said, "Oh, sorry, sir." The next day, they go out for another ride again. And here I am. I'm driving the Gator and just kind of keeping track of everything. And President decides he's going to go through the shocker, but he forgets that there's grates on the ground. And so as he's going through, guess what? He does his hands up and goes "shocker." The next thing you know, the bike is tumbling over and over again because it hits those grates. And we go over. I pick the bike off of him. I go, "Hey, sir, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, just give me a second." And The agent who he had kind of messed with the day before comes over, leans over, looks down, and says, "Showboat." He's like, touche. Such a character. It was just one of those funny events. He was perfectly fine. Obviously, we've all had bike wrecks going with him on a mountain bike, but that was just one of those funny opportunities where he was just interacting with one of the agents on a personal level, and you really did get to see those things when you're with these individuals on an ongoing basis. There's a reason we don't get into the details of our relationships, because it's their private life, right? Like, we don't share those types of things. But that was kind of a funny incident that just shows that the not only the sense of humor, but his willingness to just interrelate with us on a personal level. It really was telling.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's funny. I have one last one. So I know you said you're planning to retire within the next year, but any fun plans, anything you want to do when you retire?
That's a great question. Moving into this next season of life, I'm very excited. A lot of people ask, well, what is the Secret Service agent kind of qualified to do? Like, we have a very niche background, right? Yeah. But honestly, if you had to boil down, our job into a brief definition, it's really a master logistician with a gun. Because you can imagine managing on a global scale, right? Getting resources and people and equipment to the place they need to be on a global scale at the time they need to be there. Really, it's a whole logistics game, right? And so what we bring to the table, leaving this career, are really master logisticians who have the capacity to work at a very high level with very strict timelines and a very 0% failure rate. So moving the next season of life, I'm just letting God open those doors for me. There's so many things that we agents get into once we move into the next season of life. And I'm very excited to see what that looks like for me.
That's awesome. What a great foundation to start from, eh? So, two things were in my mind. You could choose to answer these or not. As you were speaking, I assume the Secret Service doesn't get into political affiliations at all. You mentioned when you said so many presidents. It's very interesting that they're all humans, right? And so in today's very polarized political world, does the agency make any thought accommodation to that? And then the second one, again, I don't know if you want to answer, is when I hear Secret Service, I think about President Reagan when I was a young person, and obviously the attempt on his life. And have you been in a situation where you felt maybe your life was at risk? Not necessarily have to get into details, but have you been in one of those in the time that you've been in the service?
Right. So we as an agency are intentionally apolitical. As you can imagine, we have to be that way, and we're very strict about our agents, about our ability to do any type of political campaigning. Like we're very strict about that. And there's a reason. As you can imagine, like, we're occupying positions of worthiness and confidence that are really unique in the federal agencies, in the federal government. And so, yes, we do have to ensure that our men and women are just maintaining in official capacity a very apolitical position. Yeah. And I think that's healthy and right. I really do. And then, the second part of your question, sure, you know what? But here's the thing, like, I tell my wife a lot. She's like, hey, be careful. I go, look, if we do our job right, where I am is the safest place on the planet. Yeah. Like, think about that, right? Like, despite the global threats that exist against the people that we protect, if we, men and women in our agency, do our job properly, we are in the safest place on planet Earth in that moment. So I don't want it to take away the luster of what we're doing, but consider this. You know what? Like, we're so good at what we do, and I feel okay to brag. We're so good at what we do that honestly, yeah, sure, I've been in places that there was a high threat level, but in that place, in that moment, I had complete confidence in the men and women around me. I felt completely safe.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. It's interesting. You mentioned there was never been, a traitor within the Secret Service, which is amazing. As somebody who spent some time in DC and has a graduate degree in legislative affairs, somebody politically inclined, it's really interesting. I'm always amazed, even after, when they got Osama bin Laden, the servicemen who are on site, actually, some of them come out afterwards, and gave details maybe that weren't typical. I always find it amazing that either the staff at the White House or in the Secret Service, you've never really heard, not only there's not been a traitor, but you never really hear their stories, behind the scene. I always think that's very interesting because they would see the real people. You know what I mean? If you're in the White House over, just say if you're the cook, chef, you name it, in the White House over an extended period of time or on the Secret Service, you see people how they really are. I think it's amazing over all this time. I don't think I've ever seen a book, a thought piece, an interview from someone that's in that role that kind of talks about what those folks are in their personal life, which I think is also an amazing, way to hold that process, which is so important to our overall democracy in place. I just think that's amazing. That's never come out. You know what I mean? That's amazing.
Yeah. We have we have kind of a tagline for us. It's called "Worthy of Trust and Confidence," and we really do. We take that to heart. Because we're relatively small. Like, we're one of the smallest federal agencies in the U.S. government, and it really does become quite the brotherhood, sisterhood component to us. And we consider, any type of information like that may potentially put our brothers and sisters in harm's way, beyond just giving information about people we protect, but it goes beyond that. And so there's a reason. I think you've probably not seen those types of tell-alls.
Yeah. That's amazing. In this day and age, that's amazing. You know what I mean? And the day of social media and news outlets, that's totally amazing. Chris, thank you for your time. Any last things you'd want to share with our audience? Your background, experience, Andrea mentioned things you're looking forward to. Any last things you feel like maybe we didn't hit upon that you'd love to share with the audience?
Well, you know what, Jack, thanks so much for having me on. And you know what, the one thing I do want to share is that, look, if you're going through life and you're looking for more, you're looking for a life of depth and fullness, it's out there, and it's found in Jesus Christ.
Amen. So, if you're looking to connect with Chris, he's actually on LinkedIn, and so I think we have there's his connection. We'll put that in the notes. And so thank you so much. What an amazing, I assume you have a million stories one day, maybe your family or friends that you would share or you do on a regular basis. So appreciate your time and energy. Be safe. Thank you for your service to our country. Appreciate you. Amen. Stay safe. God bless.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me. God bless
brother.
you.
Appreciate you so much. Stay safe. Super cool. Can you imagine? Imagine the stories. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure he can't say any of it though.
Sorry. Imagine at Thanksgiving where the line is. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder how many people around him are in the cone of silence. Seinfeld. You're like, I could tell you, but I'd have to tell you.
Well, or even just like his wife, like he gets home from work, like, honey, how was your day? Can't talk about it. Keep going.
Right. So funny. I lived in DC for some time, and I have some folks that are in the the national security world, and it is really interesting. There is definitely a line. One of my buddies I went to college with, be like, "Yep, here's what it is. We can't talk about it any further." So it's really that, and it's interesting in the DC area. There's the NSA and the Secret Service and CIA, FBI, so more prevalent in that area. It's amazing. So really, really interesting.
I need to go to DC.
What's that?
I said I still need to go. I haven't been.
Gosh, it is.
I'll be there in September.
What are you going up for?
Oh, what? My cousin's wedding.
Yeah, you got to schedule a couple other days just to walk on the mall and see the monuments is amazing. And even that's changed so much over the years, pre 9/11 and post. Pre 9/11, it's so funny. You could actually tour the White House. You could actually go in some of the buildings, and now none of that, unless you know somebody, you can't do any of that. But literally back in the day, you would literally, for Christmas, you tour the White House and walk in, and now you can't get into any of those buildings. But amazing. I can only imagine all the things, both with the presidents and overseas, international, just amazing. It gives a great perspective as people think about their career choices and what they're trying to get done. We're in the private sector, folks are so myopically focused on my promotion, my money, all that stuff. And then having folks that, maybe on the government side are have such power, influence, but in a different way, right? Not maybe monetarily, but being able to be around such folks and make decisions. Just such a different paradigm, right? It's also powerful and influential, but so different than maybe type A's that are chasing the money in their career. And it's amazing. So, all right. Well, that was amazing. Thank you, Chris, so much. Appreciate it. Again, we'll post the link, and you're welcome to rewatch that and connect with him on Facebook. Great guys in South Florida, and obviously man of faith. And so great person to know as you kind of talk about and build your career. And so any last things, Dre, anything you want to cover? Will we see you again before you get married?
Next Wednesday.
I got it.
Free.
All right, that's awesome. I appreciate you coming back. I'll triple your salary, and then hey, again, I just want to encourage folks, if you've not set up, I encourage you to go to i.help, set up. It's $5 a month. I set up and go set up your account, and we will see you next week. Appreciate your time and energy. Be safe out there. Happy February. God bless.